Man, it is unpopular opinion time, and boy, do I have a controversial one for you. Now, I'm just gonna stick my tongue out there and say that the 1987 to 1997 Suzuki Katana gsxf 600. I'm not talking about the legendary 1100 or the 1200 Bandit. I know those are really good bikes. I'm talking about this one. I'm just gonna say that this is a very good motorcycle, unlike what most people say on the internet. From my experience of riding it, it handles pretty well. I mean, it's got everything that I could want as a beginner. I mean, sure, if you're a little bit older and more experienced, you would say, well, this thing's like got no power, it's gutless. But if you're first starting out on bikes, this thing is definitely, it's got enough power to make you realize that, oh crud, I could actually die on one of these. And you might, you know, be a little bit more mindful and careful of how you ride on it. I mean, for instance, I mean, it can rev up to 12,000 RPMs, as you can see on the tachometer. It's got a bigger stroke than most 600s. Most 600s have a little bit more flatter, bigger bore. This one's got a longer stroke. That's why I can only rev up so high. So it's definitely got a little bit more torque than some 600s, but I'm not saying like the modern ones. Modern ones definitely got a lot more power. But unlike most people, you know, I mean, I haven't had any problems where the serious problems, at least, as long as, you know, you do your maintenance and keep up with things. I mean, you can't find a seat like this on most modern day sport bikes. These banana seats, they're very comfortable. I mean, sure, it's taped up, but I had to tape it because I got this bike for free and the seats were already cracked. So until I get new fabric, I have them taped up for right now. And I mean, it's holding, it's waterproof tape, so it's good for right now. But also another thing, people talk about all the time on these bikes when they mod them. They talk about, oh, don't do these pod filters on here. Don't do that. You'll mess it all up and blah, blah, blah. It's hard to tune and all this other fun stuff. Well, I did it on the bike, and all you really got to do is put bigger jets in it. I mean, I got like 270 millimeter jets in here, or I'm not sure if it's millimeters, but I know they're 270 jets about, from what I heard, whenever I had it at the bike shop and they had to do some work on it. I mean, I didn't do this completely myself. I put the filters on myself, but I didn't do the synchronizing because I didn't have the tools at the time. But they put bigger jets in here and they synchronized it because it was running open headers. I didn't even have an exhaust like that. And it ran great. I mean, it had a stock airbox on it, but then I realized it was running super rich. So I was like, well, let me just put pod filters on it to make it run a little less rich. It still runs rich, but these definitely helped out a whole lot more. It's got a little bit more power, and also a lot better fuel economy efficiency. And you will have to worry about, you know, water getting in this, but like if you have the fairings covering it completely, you'd probably be fine. Of course, I don't have my fairings covering it completely because, well, my fairings are cracked as hell, and when I got the bike, they were already messed up, and it's so hard to find new fairings for this bike. Also, another thing, these full exhaust systems, you definitely want to get a tune for them. Like, you know, you want to put bigger jets for the pod filters, and you want to put bigger jets if you got a full exhaust system. This exhaust system by Mac Performance came from Niche Cycle. They don't have them anymore in stock, but I bought like the second to last one, and it's definitely proven its worth. I mean, I cannot tell you, this thing has made it a lot quieter and not as loud, and it definitely has a little bit more giddy up and go. Also helped out with the gas mileage, but you know, who cares about gas mileage when on your motorcycle? Also, another big mod for this bike is upgrading this clutch assembly. I got stiffer springs and organic carbon friction plates, and this definitely has made it a lot easier to, I mean, not easier, but the shifts are more bam, 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 you know what I mean? Instead of like sloppy or, you know, loose feeling. It's definitely got a lot more oomph when it goes in, because if I don't rev up high enough on the RPMs, the bike will stall. I mean, I don't even think it can really run in first gear with just letting out the clutch, and it won't. It'll kill itself because of how hard this thing clamps down, but it definitely has helped. I mean, I really like it a lot more. But this thing is definitely a great commuter bike. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. And another thing I've noticed on the internet, and this is one of the biggest game changer mods for this bike whenever I first got it versus now. Of course, it had old tires on it, but whenever I got it, it had cracked old tires. And if you notice, my sidewall is definitely a lot thinner than what the stock sidewalls are recommended to be. This is it's still the same tires. I kept the front, tire size the same. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's a 110 in the front, and what it's supposed to be in the back is 140. But the difference is I have a 70% sidewall R17 instead of an 80%. It's a 10% reduction. Now I could go to 120, but that would mess it up and it'd be like bowed over more, and I don't want that for this bike. I want to be able to handle properly, so I kept with a 110, and so it won't rub up here. But making this sidewall smaller and going with modern day 600, more sport touring tires, because if you try to get the original size for the rear and front, like a set, there's not that many manufacturers that make the original size, and I haven't really checked, I mean, I've looked and I was kind of like, nah, these aren't really sport touring tires or sport bike tires. They're kind of more of for those cross off-road / on-road bikes and cruisers and everything else. They're not the right type of flexible rubber you want if you're trying to actually turn or go. I mean, I just got these GPR 300s because they looked neat, decent, and they were a good price for me. But anyways, besides that, so I got different types of tires, and that sidewall was 70% in the front, and in the back I went with, where is it? Oh, well, you can't see it on this side. Maybe it's on the other side. Let me see. Oh, ha. Well, I don't see it because it's all the way up there probably. Unless I'm just blind. No, here it is. I found it. Yeah. Focus, camera, please. There you go. So I went with a 150/60R 17 tire. Now this is definitely wider than stock, because stock is 140, but to get a modern day tire on it, you need to go up at least 10 millimeters. Now it definitely, as you can see, it's a little bit bowed out. It's definitely pushing it, because you don't want to go with a 160. I've heard on the internet from people that if you go with a 160, it could flip in if you're trying to take a really sharp turn, and you could lose all traction and your rear tire slip out from you. So that's why I went with a 150 instead of that, which is, to me, not smart either. If you wanted to get a wider tire on this small of a rim, it's not a very good idea. But anyways, the point is, this sidewall, it made the tire more round because I cut instead of having 80% back here, which is what I want to say it was. No, it was 70%. 70% in the rear, 80 in the front. Because this sidewall is smaller by 10% on each one, it's made the bike so much more flickable. I mean, I cannot tell y'all how much of a difference it made, but whenever I got versus the old tires, I would turn and this thing would just whoop in the corner, whoop into another corner, whoop, go this way, go that way. I mean, it made the bike completely different in terms of handling. Sure, it's still heavy for a modern day 600. I mean, look at the frame, it's steel. That's not aluminum. The only thing aluminum is this, and maybe the exhaust muffler and everything. The pipes are still, those are stainless steel. But for 87, this was pretty modern, or pretty competitive in terms of speed. Not exactly the best out of all the 600s, because I know 100% that the Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki were kicking Suzuki's butt with their 600s versus their, Katana 600. But whenever it first came out, it was a really good sport bike in terms of what it offered. It wasn't the best and fast, but it definitely was up there. So another reason why people hate on it is because it's so old. Well, I mean, yeah, any modern day sport bikes could destroy this thing. But it makes a great commuter bike and definitely is comfortable. I mean, you can't go wrong with it, to me. I will say it is hard to find parts for this bike. This bike is such a pain in the rear to find parts with. That is the only drawback, besides the epitome of second gear going out because you bent your forks by being a stupid idiot and not using your clutch to shift. You have to be gentle with second. You have to really shove it in second, because Otherwise, it'll make all kinds of funny noises, and I don't like those noises. It's pretty hard. So I'm usually pretty general on when I'm shifting the second. Even if I'm going fast, I try to be as quick and efficient with the clutch as I can going the second, because you don't want to bend those forks, shifter forks on the bike. Yeah, but I also had to replace this. This is a gsxr brake lever. I mean, the rear brake was not braking, so I had to fix that. But other than that, it's been solid. I mean, it's a good bike. It gets pretty good mileage, although I will say I need to go down one jet size because the jets in it too big currently are too big, because it still runs rich and it backfires a little bit, but not as much as it was doing when I had the stock air box on, which is over here. Excuse me. It's got the Canon air filter inside of it, and I mean, it's good. I need to clean it. But like, you know, it's not as breathable as those other filters on there. But yeah, so if you're wanting to do like pod filters or full exhaust, you definitely need to get bigger jets in it, and it really isn't that hard to synchronize it. I don't know what people are talking about. To me, it's just people being silly and trying to go around the whole getting bigger jet sizes and everything. Just do it. Just get a bigger jet. I mean, it's really not hard to take apart these carbs. I've done it like 4 times. More than that probably, actually, at this point. But it's really not bad, and I don't understand the whole reason behind hating on that. I also had to find a battery online, order it on eBay, because they don't sell those in store. But other than that, I mean, this bike's fun. I mean, it's definitely a great beginner bike, and I can't go wrong with it, really. I mean, you know, you gotta do your maintenance and just try to find the parts online. I mean, it's really hard to find parts. I wish they would make brand new fairings for this thing, like painted and everything. They don't. They make fairings, but they're unpainted white, and you have to cut out the holes for the vents and everything, and it's just like, why? You know, a huge pain in the rear. But other than that, I mean, the biggest thing I wanted was the tires. I definitely recommend, if you're trying to get new tires from your Katana, go with lower aspect ratio. Trust me, it's like a world of a difference. It completely changes the way the bike handles. But yeah, so I mean, unpopular opinion, but I definitely like the Katana, unlike most people. Most people say it's a piece of garbage. I say it's definitely a certain type of taste, and definitely more of a commuter, but it can get up and go if it needs to. Also, I forgot to mention, my rear sprocket, I want to say, is a 45 tooth sprocket, and the original came with like a 43, so that definitely also helps going up a sprocket size in the rear, making more teeth on it so it has a faster acceleration. But you lose a little top speed, but it really doesn't matter that much. Alright, so just if you want to comment, go ahead. I mean, it's my opinion, and well, it's not perfect, but it is my opinion, and it is my first bike, so I'm just giving you my not first impressions, but like my take on owning it versus what everyone else says on the internet. So that's it for now. Until next time.